Good afternoon, everyone. It's the 26th of November. Mark's been reading through the book of Mark. Today he's ready for chapter 6. And this particular chapter, a lot of the people were trying to establish who this Jesus really was. And they said, is not this the carpenter's son? The son of Mary? The brother of James and Joseph and Judah and Simon? Are not his sisters here with us? So you see here, Jesus had 4 brothers and sisters. I don't know how many sisters he had. What did Jesus say? Jesus said a prophet is not without honor, but in his own country and among his own kin in his own house. You ever had that experience when you tried to share the good news of the gospel with somebody that's in your family and they just shut you down? I know I have. Says he could not do any mighty works just except for laying his hands on a few sick folk. Says he marveled because of their unbelief. So he went around about the other villages teaching. You know, I don't have very many people attend our house church here. You know, we have 3 members of the house church here in Pineville. But my message of the gospel has been gone all around the world, you know. And then he sent his disciples 2 by 2. And he says, don't take any scrip, nor bread, nor money. Be shod with sandals. Don't put on 2 coats. And he says, whatsoever you do, you enter into a house. And if they basically welcome you in, go in. If they're not, then you shake the dust off your feet. And they went out and preached that men should repent. And they cast out devils, and knowing what many with oil, they were sick and healed them. And they got into an argument who John the Baptist was. Some said he was a prophet, some said he was Elias. And Herod, you know, he said, I beheaded Herod. Is he risen from the dead? You know, John told Herod that it wasn't lawful for him to have his brother's wife. And Herod didn't like it, did he? Well, anyway, we see that Herodias' daughter came in and danced before the king, and ended up she requested at her mother's request the head of John the Baptist, and he brought it in on a charge for her. And Jesus went apart into the desert. And then he says that he came out and saw much people and was moved with compassion toward them and began to teach them many things. And then, of course, we have the feeding of the feeding of the 5,000, and how that Christ took a few loaves and fishes, and they ended up taking up 12 baskets after they fed all these 5,000 men. And it was just men, 5,000. That didn't include the women and children. And then we have him walking up on the sea. And he says, be of good cheer, it is I. And so this was really quite a story of, it says, as many as touched his garments were made whole. You know. So I'll turn this over to Mark. This is a rather lengthy chapter. It's 56 verses.
Mark chapter 6. And he went out from thence and came into his own country, and his disciples followed him. Sabbath day was come. He began to teach in the synagogue. And many hearing him were astonished, saying, from whence hath this man these things? What wisdom is this which is given unto him, that even such mighty works are wrought by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James and Joses, and of Judah and Simon, and are not his sisters here with us? They were offended at him. Jesus said unto them, a prophet is not without honor, but his own country, and among his own kin, and his own house. He could there do no mighty works save he could do there He could there do no mighty work, save that he laid his hands upon a few sick folk and healed them. He marveled because of their unbelief, and he went round about the villages teaching. He called unto him the 12, and began to send them forth by 2 and 2, and gave them power over unclean spirits. He commanded them that they should take nothing for their journey save the staff only, no scrip, no bread, no money in their purse. But he shod with sandals, and not put on 2 coats. He said unto them, in what place soever ye enter into a house, there abide till ye depart from that place. And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear you when you depart thence, shake off the dust under your feet for a testimony against them. Verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that city. They went out and preached that men should repent, and they cast out many devils, and anointed with oil many that were sick, and healed them. And King Herod of him, for his name was spread abroad, he said that John the Baptist was risen from the dead, and therefore mighty works to show forth themselves in him. Others said that it is Elias, and others said it is a prophet, or is one of the prophets. When Herod heard thereof, he said, it is John whom I beheaded. He is risen from the dead. For Herod himself had sent forth and laid hold upon John, and bound him in prison for Herodias' sake, his brother Philip's wife, for he had married her. For John had said to Herod, it is not lawful for thee to have thy brother's wife. Therefore Herodias had a quarrel against him, and would have killed him, but she could not. For Herod feared John, knowing that he was a just man and holy, and observed him. When he heard him, he did many things, and heard him gladly. When a convenient day was come, that Herod on his birthday made a supper to his lords, high captains and chief estates of Galilee, when the daughter of the said Herodias came in, and danced to please Herod and them that sat with him, the king said unto the damsel, ask of me whatsoever thou wilt, and I will give it thee. He sware unto her, whatsoever thou shalt ask of me, I will give it thee, unto the half of my kingdom. She went forth and said unto her mother, what shall I ask? And she said, to the head of John the Baptist. She came in straightway with haste unto the king, and asked, saying, I will that thou give me by and by. And then charged her the head of John the Baptist. The king was exceedingly sorry. Yet for his own sake, and for their sakes which sat with him, he would not receive her. Immediately the king sent an auctioneer and commanded his head to be brought. And he went and beheaded him in the prison, brought his head in a charger and gave it to the damsel, and the damsel gave it to her mother. And when his disciples heard of it, they came and took up his corpse and laid it in a tomb. Apostles gathered themselves together to Jesus and told him all things, both what they had done and what they had taught. And he said to them, Come ye yourselves apart into a desert place and rest a while. For there were many coming and going, and they had no leisure so much as to eat. Departed to a desert place by ship privately, and the people saw them departing. And many knew him, and ran afoot thither out of all cities, and overwent them, and came together unto him. Jesus, when he came out, saw much people, and was moved with compassion toward them, because they were as sheep not having a shepherd. He began to teach them many things. When the day was now far spent, his disciples came unto him and said, This is a desert place, and now the time is far past. Send them away that they may go into the country round about, into the villages, and buy themselves bread, for they have nothing to eat. He answered and said to them, Give them to eat. And they say unto him, Shall we go and buy 200 pennyworth of bread, and give them to eat? He saith unto them, How many loaves have ye? Go and see. And when they knew, they say, 5 and 2 fishes. And he commanded them to make all sit down by companies upon the green grass. And they sat down in ranks by hundreds and by fifties. When he had taken the 5 loaves, the 2 fishes, he looked up to heaven and blessed to break the loaves. They gave them to his disciples to set before them. The 2 fishes divided he among them all. They did all eat and were filled, and they took up 12 baskets full of the fragments of the fishes. They that did eat the loaves were about 5,000 men. Straightway he constrained his disciples to get into the ship and go to the other side before Bethsaida, while he sent away the people. When he had sent them away, he departed to a mountain to pray, and when evening was come, the ship was in the midst of the sea, and he alone on the land. He saw them toiling and rowing, for the wind was contrary unto them. About the 4th watch of the night he cometh unto them, walking upon the sea, would have passed by them. When they saw him walking upon the sea, they supposed it had been a spirit, and cried out. For they all saw him, were troubled. Immediately he talked with them, and saith unto them, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. And he went up unto them into the ship. The wind ceased. They were sore amazed themselves beyond measure, and wondered. For they considered not the miracle of the loaves, for their heart was hardened. And when they had passed over, they came into the land of Gennesaret, and drew to the shore. But when they were come out of the ship, straightway they knew him, and ran through that whole region round about, began to carry about in beds those that were sick, where they heard he was. And whithersoever he entered the villages or cities or countries, they laid the sick in the streets, besought him that they might touch, if it were but the border of his garment. As many as touched him were made whole.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Yes.